Good morning, students. This is JC Benoy, your SST teacher. I hope you are all doing well and are taking care of yourselves. Today, we are going to start with chapter 4 of history, and the name of our lesson is the first cities. Alright, so that is a lesson that we're going to be doing today. But before we start, I want you to remember what we did in the previous lessons, alright? So just connect and try to recollect what you had studied. So for that, I have put up a picture. Now this is an image of the Neolithic people which we had studied in the previous lesson. Alright, so please go back to lesson 2 and 3 and find out what we had studied. We had studied about phases of Stone Age, the different kinds of phases. So the last stage that we had stopped at were the Neolithic people. Now who were the Neolithic people and what was so special about them? All the answers are there in that image which I have put up. Look at it closely again and keep a paper and pen handy, keep it nearby and make a note of all the activities that you can see the Neolithic people perform. Okay, can you have a look at that? Please look more closely. What can you see? You can see some animals and somebody taking care of those animals. At the background of the image, you can see green fields. So that shows that the Neolithic people had started farming. And they are also living in huts and they're living together as a group of people, as a society, like a community. At the fore, in the front of the image, you can see that there's a child playing probably and the mother is weaving something. She's making cloth. Alright, you can see some animals around. So that shows that the Neolithic people had already learned to domesticate animals. So these were the advancements of the people of the Neolithic age. Also you can see that there is this person who is grinding something. She's making, looks like it's making that white color image, white color powder like thing that is kept next to the stone. Correct? So what does that mean? It means that they were using something to grind and pound. So that means that these were all the advancements that the Neolithic people had already been able to achieve. Now we are going to look at the transition from the early humans, early societies to the first cities. Alright, so that is the name of our chapter, the first cities. That is the chapter 4 of history for grade 6. Alright, so that is what we're going to learn today. Alright, so what is the name of a lesson? The first cities. And this lesson looks at the transition from the Neolithic period to the first civilizations of the world. So what are we going to learn in this lesson? We're going to learn about the transition. That means the phasing. That means the change that took place from the pastoral phase. Now what does pastoral phase mean? Pastoral phase means the period when the people were farming. Alright, so as you can see in the image, the people were able to farm. So that it was a farming society. The culture was only based on farming. So from this to the early cities, how did the society change? That is called the transition from the pastoral phase to urban phase. Now what is urban? Urban is, now in the image I had shown you, it looked like a village settlement, correct? So now we are going to look at the first cities which brought about urbanization. So that brings me to the next topic that we're going to study about. We are also going to learn about what was civilization and what does the word urbanization mean. Then we are also going to learn about the Harappan cities. We are going to focus about the Harappan cities that were found in India, near the Indus River, alright, and what was their way of life. So that is one city that we are going to focus on because we cannot learn all the cities or ancient cities of the world. So these are the things that we are going to learn about, alright. So how do we come to know about these cities? Now we are telling you that the previous early settlements, they had learned to domesticate their animals, they were able to live in built huts. Alright, but how do we know that there was a transition from the farming society to this urban culture? So we can learn from the ruins of the Harappan society. Alright, how can we come to know that? It is from the ruins of the urban society. Now what does the ruins mean? Ruins means the leftover buildings or the leftover archaeological structures that we find. Now we have already learnt about archaeological sources in first chapter, when, where and how. So if you have any doubts with the terms, please go to that video and refer. I am not going to go back into that chapter right now. Alright, so these different archaeological sources that we had studied about, they tell us about the past. So in that we had already seen that they had that the Neolithic society was able to farm, correct? Then what was different about the urban period? Alright, let me tell you what happened. Now in this transition, from the study of all these different ruins all across our country, and some of them are now in Pakistan, we come to know that there was a lot of difference. It looks like there was a lot of planning done. If you look at the image that is put up on screen, you will see that it is divided into different sections. It looks like there are some areas which are low and some which are high, correct? So what does that show? It shows that the city was divided into parts, and each part must have had some role to play. And also we have learnt that by this time they were able to find metals. Alright, so they were able to discover metals. How did these metals change their life? Did it improve their life? What do you think must have happened? What must they have done with the metals? So that all those things we are going to study about right now. You all think about it and make a note. Alright. So now how did they impact? How did the metals impact human society? Okay. So that is a picture of a statue made of bronze. What other things could they have made with these metals? They were able to make different tools which helped them to make things. They were able to move from one place to other. They were able to do farming better because they were able to see. If you can see, then you can see that there are transport carriages made. Okay, carts made. So then all these things need to be made with sharp tools. So then during the Bronze Age, they were able to use metals to make weapons, tools, to make sharp tools. In the Neolithic and the Paleolithic phases, if you remember, they were using stones, tools made of stones. Okay, but now in this urban era, they were able to make tools and weapons made up of metals, using different metals that were found in their area. Now before we go forward, just write down what you can think of as what would urbanization mean. Okay, just think about it a little bit. So basically urbanization means that it was the rise of towns and cities, and they were planned, and more people were coming to stay together. Now obviously everybody would not be doing the same thing, so it also shows that in urbanization different roles were assigned, or different tasks were assigned to different groups of people. So there were people who were working with metals. They could be blacksmiths. They were called as blacksmiths. Okay, or there could be people who were farming. So then the farmers would be a different group of people. Farmers would have to buy tools from the blacksmiths because they would need it for digging. You need axes for digging. You need different materials to make different things. So you need for threshing. There were different aspects of farming needed different kinds of tools. So the blacksmiths would make these tools using metals. Alright. So that means in the city you would find farmers living, then you would find blacksmiths who were making metals, tools or weapons. Then there could be traders who were bringing different things from different areas. Then there was also a community which used to make the pottery for the whole city. So then you need, because you obviously need vessels for holding your material or your food or other, you need containers for different things. So who made those containers? The potters. So there were like that different sections of the society. So there was food production. This shows that there was metal technology that was being used to make the different tools. Okay, so and also that there must have been an exchange, because otherwise how would the farmers get tools from the blacksmiths? So there must have been some trading happening. Okay, so these were the different aspects which brought about urbanization. All right, now another important thing about urbanization you will see in of the first cities, you will realize, is that most of these cities, actually all of these cities flourished on river banks. Now I have discussed this in the previous video also, so I'm not going to go more about it into detail. But what you will observe is that the cities flourished around the river banks. Why did civilizations rise on the banks of the river? Okay, what would be the main features of urban life? These are questions which you need to write down and think about it and build an answer. I have already given you most of the points. For urban life, what would you think? There was food production, there was metal tools being made, there were people who were trading, there was an exchange of food and tools. So there were also people who were making the pottery for the cities. Apart from this, there was transportation, because people were traveling from one place to the other by the boats using the rivers. So these are different things that were particular about the urban society. Okay, that is what is different from the Neolithic society. What happened with the Neolithic society? The Neolithic society was self-contained. They were not very huge or not very well developed. They did a little bit of weaving for themselves. They grew crops which they were able to use for themselves, and they had already learned to domesticate animals, so they were using those animals for their milk and meat, as well as the meat. Okay, once they had settled and once they had found the metals, they were able to make more, they were able to build more, they were able to build structures, buildings, and that is one major difference between the Neolithic societies and the urban cities. All right, earlier the huts were made of leaves or wood. All right, so these were the things that were used to make the huts. But when they came to live in the cities, they were able to build buildings. We have actually found evidence that they were able to build buildings using bricks. Okay, how do we know this? We know this because of the remains of these early cities that we have found on different river banks all across the world. Okay, in fact there are four main civilizations of the Bronze Age. But before that, I want you to know why these civilizations are called as the Bronze Age. These civilizations are called the Bronze Age because they basically used bronze in a large quantity. Okay, a lot of bronze was used to make their tools, their weapons, their containers. So now it was also transition period that they not only used pottery containers, okay, but they also started so pottery is vessels or containers made of clay, but they had also started using metals, and they had started using jewelry. There was jewelry available which was made of bronze also. So that is why this age or this phase in history is called as the Bronze Age. Okay, so these are the important characteristics of the Bronze Age, and you will observe that all these cities were on river banks. So this is an image, a map of the Harappan civilization, so Indus Valley civilization, Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. This is a group of different settlements across the river banks of that area. Okay, most of it is now in Pakistan, but at the time it was all considered a part of India. And if you observe, all the main cities are at the banks of the river. Like I told you earlier, cities flourished near the rivers basically for two main reasons. One was they needed access to water for their daily needs and purposes, and secondly they needed water for their transportation. Okay, so these are the reasons why cities flourished at river banks. Second, what were the main features of urban life? It was definitely trading, because they were able to they had different opportunities to do work. Like there were different sorts of trades, like there were the blacksmiths, there were the farmers, there were the people who were possibly involved in exchange, there were transportation, so there were boats people who took the boats, alright, so boatmen. So there were different trades that people were following, alright. So all this is a part of the urban life. And we also saw why this period is called as Bronze Age, because the people had discovered the metal bronze, and they had started making weapons, tools and jewelry made of bronze, and that is why this period is called as the Bronze Age. Now let's look at the discovery of Harappa. What were the different things that were discovered in Harappa? Alright, now before that I just want you to see a few images of the of the tools that were used by the Harappan civilization, as well as the ancient civilizations, okay, by the early cities. I also want you to remember a few things about the early cities. There were the Indus Valley civilization, which we already know about. Apart from this, there was the Chinese civilization, which was on the river of Huang Ho. Okay, so there was the Chinese civilization which flourished on the river banks of Huang Ho. Apart from this, we also had the Egyptian civilization on the banks of the river Tigris, alright, and these were the important Egyptian civilizations on the banks of river Nile, and the Mesopotamian civilization on the banks of the river Tigris. So these are the different civilizations that you had in the ancient time, in the Bronze Age. I'll just repeat the names. One is the Indus Valley civilization, which was on the banks of the river Indus. Second could be Chinese civilization, that was on the banks of river Huang Ho. Then you had the Egyptian civilization, that was on the banks of river Nile, because Nile is the only and the biggest river in Egypt. And the Mesopotamian civilization, which flourished on the banks of river Tigris. Alright, so these were the four main ancient civilizations during the Bronze Age. Now we are going to look at the Harappan civilization. Alright, and how was Harappa found? Okay, so if you look at this image, you can see that there are different rivers in this map, and the red dots give you a rough location of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Alright, so basically these were cities that were found on the banks of river Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. Now how were these civilizations found? Okay, now in 1826, by that time the East India Company had already come and settled in India. Okay, and they were doing a lot of work, so they were building railways and other things across the country. So in 1826, this English soldier by the name of Charles Mason, please write down the name. So in 1826, Charles Mason, he was a British explorer and a soldier. He came across these bricks, lots of some old bricks and old buildings made of old bricks. Okay, and he thought that, you know, they look like old castles, so he made a record of that. But they still had not found out the importance of these brick buildings that were found. Okay, and then those bricks were used by the British soldiers to make railway tracks, to build railway tracks along in Lahore, Karachi in Pakistan. Okay, so those bricks of those old castles which he saw were used by the British soldiers to make railway tracks between Lahore and Karachi in Pakistan. All right. Then many years later, in 1919, 1920, we, there was Daya Ram Sahani. He was in 1921. This is an image of Daya Ram Sahani. He was an Indian soldier. He was working in an Indian soldier in the British Army. And what did he find? He found that there were more buildings of old bricks, you know, all across this area. So he started, he made a note of it and he started excavating the sites. What does excavation mean? Excavation means removing the old, removing the mud that or the debris that is piled around these sites, around these buildings, and digging them if some of them were covered by dust or by earth, and many of them were under the surface of the earth. So the archaeologists remove this surface earth slowly and gradually, and then they are able to piece the area. All right, so they are able to find that location. So all this is called as the process of excavation. Excavation is to remove from the earth. Okay. So Daya Ram Sahani in 1921 started excavating different places or sites along the Indus River, along the river banks of Ravi. All right, this is in western Punjab. Then much again in between 1919 and 1920, Rakhalal Das Banerjee. Now he was also an officer in the Archaeological Survey of India. Okay, this was established by the Britishers. He started large scale excavations along the river Indus. All right, so these are the people who went on digging under the earth, looking for locations to build the, to find the Harappan cities that were there. All right. Then this was further followed by John Marshall, because these two people, Daya Ram Sahani and R.D. Banerjee, were able to find quite a many buildings or many areas, you know, that looked very important and ancient. John Marshall, an archaeologist from the from Britain, he also started taking huge scale excavation. So he took the whole excavation under his control, and he helped to find more and more locations that were spread all across the banks of river Indus and its tributaries. All right, so these are the three important people who helped find, dig more, excavate more the Indus River Valley civilizations. In fact, they were able to find so many different buildings and structures all across, from Balochistan, which is now in Pakistan, to Sindh in Gujarat, which is now in India, Rajasthan, Haryana, Punjab and western Uttar Pradesh. They were able to find different sites which are spread all across this huge area, right from Balochistan and Sindh, which is now in Pakistan, to Gujarat, Rajasthan, Haryana, Punjab and western Uttar Pradesh. All right. So these different structures were found in these areas. And these all helped us to understand that Harappa and Mohenjo-daro were really important and large civilizations, and they had a specific structure around them. So that is what I have put up right now on the screen. What was the structure of the Harappan society? So it looked like there was a specific town planning. Now, as a part of the town planning, the city was divided into two parts, the upper city and the lower town. Okay, the upper town and the lower town. Now, as you can see in the image, it looks like there is a there is some mount fortress kind like built structure at the back of the image, which is on a higher level, and then as we move away from the top, you can see towards you that it is coming lower and lower. Like there are different structures, there are different wall-like structures all across that image, correct? So that itself shows you that there was some sort of town planning which was followed in these cities, and they are all made of bricks. So that shows that the Harappan civilization or the Indus Valley civilization was able to build towns using bricks. So that means there were people who were making bricks. So that is another trade that was followed by the Harappan civilization. All right. Now, apart from this, you will find that there are a lot of now to build such structures and for them to last, obviously there was a strong foundation. Okay, so then this was possibly historians think that the people who lived in the upper part of the town must have been more more affluent, more rich, or more wealthy, okay, because they were living in the better part of the town, and as they moved away from the center of the town, the lower town would possibly be made up of would have had people who were not so rich, who were not that well off, okay. They could be of they could be people who existed on very little. So that is something that you need to understand. All right, so we have seen that this is another image of Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, and they found that there are different, if you look in this image, you will see that there are different parts of the city. So the upper town and the lower town. In the upper town you had the citadel. Citadel had a fortress, like citadel is like a fortress, okay, so like a fort, and this is also called as the Acropolis. What is it also called as? The Acropolis. Now this was fortified and it had more specific structure. There was also an important part of the citadel which was considered that it hosted a lot of people. There are a lot of buildings there, okay, so they must have had the temples there. So these are things that the historians have imagined, all right, and the things that they have found in these excavations prove that different buildings were used for different things, all right. So apart from this, it looks like there are streets there, then there are different houses. The houses looked like they were made up of mud bricks, and they possibly had flat roofs. That is what the ruins tell us. And there was also a drainage system in this fortress area, or the upper town and the lower town, which helped the water to drain out from the houses and the structures and to be pushed out of the city. All right, so this looks like early civilization. So these are all in existence right from the Harappan society. All right, then so now what all did we look at? We can see that there is a citadel or a fortress. The towns were divided into two parts, upper town and lower town. The upper town possibly was a place where the upper communities or the richer people lived, and possibly people who used to manage the town would live, and lower town would be the people where the common people would stay. Apart from this, there were streets that were connecting the city in different locations. There were houses built of bricks which possibly had flat roofs, and there was a drainage system also. Now a great bath is also found. I have written it on the screen, please make a note of it. The great bath was also found in the Harappan civilization. And what does that mean? It is like a well-like area. Like if you look in the image, you will see that it looks like it is at a lower portion. So that was the place possibly where the water was collected, and people used to come together to have a bath here. And they have it's like a public tank, and this is in the citadel part of the town, okay, so the upper part of the upper town of the city. All right, and the tank had 6 entrances, so there were 6 different entrances, and you can see that there are staircases on both the sides of the picture that I have put up. So they had 6 entrances and they had 2 staircases which were coming into the rooms from different sides. All right, and they also had a drain to remove the dirty water out, and they obviously had they had a well which used to from which the water was used to fill the bath. All right, so these are the different things that were found in the Great Bath, and that itself shows that there was a lot of advancement in technology. There was a huge change in the way of life of the people from the Neolithic age and the Harappan civilization. All right, so the Great Bath shows all this. Now this is the well that I was talking about. So this was like the source of water. Like these several wells have been found all across the Harappan civilization. Then this is an image which shows you the extent of Mohenjo-daro and Harappa civilization, which is spread all across the river, which are basically on the banks of the river Indus and its tributaries. So these are the things that we have studied about. Now, apart from this, in among all these structures that we have seen, archaeologists have also think that there must have been place to store the grains, extra grains that the people were able to produce. They are called as granaries. So what are granaries? Granaries are places which are kept clean to store extra grains. Okay, so in the in the Harappan civilization, archaeologists have found granaries which must have been used to store extra grains that the people were able to produce, the farmers were producing, so that they could use it in the period when there could be less rain, or in case of any disaster, those grains could be used. And apart from this, we have also found that the administration, so there was have been some sort of an administration to plan the cities, to plan the drains, to plan the different trades that were taking place, correct? So the administration must have been very efficient. Efficient, it means that they must have been very good at planning and managing things for the town. Okay, now let's look at the craft and technology of the Harappan civilization. Now in the Harappan cities, we have found many different kinds of tools and weapons which I have already shown you. Now why is this particular image important? This image is of the bronze dancing girl. Now what is so special about this image is that it looks like this is of a woman and she has worn bangles. Okay, so that shows that it's, and some jewelry around her neck and her arms. So that itself shows that the Harappan civilization, they were already using jewelry, all right. And this statue is made up of bronze, so that itself shows that they were very well versed with the use of the metal bronze. They knew how to use it, they knew how to make things out of it, and apart from making basic items like weapons and tools for their day-to-day needs, but they were also making things to decorate their places, all right. So that their houses, their society, their cities, all right. So that is what it shows. So that shows that there is a lot of advancement in craft and technology. They were also good at the beadwork. They were able to make bangles. These are all jewelry which are found in, which were found in the Harappan cities. All right. So all this proves that the Indus Valley civilization, the Harappan society, was very advanced, and this constitutes of both the Indus Valley civilization and of both Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. So both these societies had a lot of trade also. Now apart from this, they also used pottery, containers and things made of clay. They also had statues of the gods and goddesses made of clay. So that all this shows that pottery, bronze making, all these were trades that were very well practiced in the Harappan society. So both in Harappa and in Mohenjo-daro, it was used very widely. Alright, so these are aspects of the trade. Now if they were making pottery, if a potter was making things of pottery, would he not exchange those pottery things for like a container? He could exchange it for grains, because we all want food. Or he could be exchanging his containers or vessels with the blacksmith. Blacksmith would be the person who made the tools. So that means that people were exchanging things for other things in return that they wanted. So that means that their trade existed. All right. So pottery, blacksmith, metals. So all this proves. Apart from this, there is proof that there was trade between the Indus Valley civilization and Mesopotamia. How do we know that? We know that because we have found Harappan seals in Mesopotamia. Okay. What does that mean? I'll tell you. Okay, so this image which I have put up right now is that of a Harappan seal. What does that show? It shows that this was used as a currency for the Harappan traders, okay, by the Harappan traders, people who were doing business, okay. So they were trading their material with not only within themselves, because the potters would be buying things from the farmers like food grains, or the tools from the blacksmith. What would they give in exchange? They could possibly be exchanging their material, what they have made. Okay, similarly, so there was internal exchange. Apart from that, there was an exchange between Indus Valley civilization and Mesopotamia. And how do we know that? Because we have found, archaeologists have found Harappan seals in places as far as in Mesopotamia. Okay, so that shows that there must have been some sort of an exchange. So that shows that trade flourished during this period. Alright, so what all have we looked at right now? One aspect we have looked at is that trade existed in Mohenjo-daro as well as Harappa. In fact, there was internal trade where the potters, the bronze makers, that is a blacksmith, and all these people, they were very good at craft and technology, and they were also able to trade with each other for the things that they needed. Okay, apart from that, we also saw the extent of the Harappan civilization, that is, they were all over the Indus river and its tributaries. There were different sites which have been found, and we also saw that the Harappan cities, Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, were well organized. They were very organized, so that organization itself shows that there was some sort of administration. We also learnt that the city was divided into two parts, the upper town and the lower town. The upper town had the citadel or the fortress, where you had possibly the upper class or the the people who were administrating. Possibly those were the people who lived in these areas. Apart from this, you also saw that there is the Great Bath, which was a public tank which had different 6 entrances. They had a well for the water to be refilled. They had a drainage system which took the dirty water out from the baths. So it shows that there was a lot of society, there was a lot of communication, there was also a lot of exchange. So people came together, and they were developed enough to make these structures using bricks. They had also discovered bronze, and that is why this is known as the Bronze Age. And these are the people who were involved with the excavation. So first sighting was done in 1826 by one British soldier. And then by, do you remember what his name was? In 1826, it was Charles Masson. I don't have an image of his. Okay, so Charles Masson found the first structures of the Harappan civilization, which were then further excavated by Daya Ram Sahani in 1921. Followed by, there were also excavations carried out by R.D. Banerjee, who was an officer of Archaeological Society of India. This was done between 1919 and 1920. And lastly, John Marshall, who took supervision, who got involved with the supervision of the excavation of the Harappan and Mohenjo-daro sites. Alright, so these were the people who were involved with the excavation and finding all these details or related to Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, and all these together form the Indus Valley civilization. Now I'm going to stop here. These images are of the weapons and tools that were used by the people of the Bronze Age of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. So it shows that they were also using bronze to make their tools and weapons. That itself shows that they were using the metal bronze quite extensively, and they were a part of the Bronze Age. I am going to stop here today. Please go through the video in detail. Make a note of where the 2 questions which I mentioned in the beginning. What is urbanization? Why do you think the cities developed on the banks of the river? How do you think would be the life of the people of the Bronze Age, okay, or of these early cities? What do you think would their lives be like? Okay, so you need to note about these. Apart from this, we also saw about the discovery of Harappan society. Alright, we saw where it is located, and we also learnt about how the town was planned and what were the different parts of the planning of the town. Okay, I'm going to stop here, but before I stop, I have this instruction which I have to leave for you. All students of Pratibha International School have to leave their full names in the comment box below the lesson video. It is important. Unless and until you do not leave your name, you will not be marked present. I have got a lot of attendance. I am still putting them down, but there are still many students who have not. I cannot see your names. And since I'm giving the instruction in the end, I know it if you have not watched the views, okay, if you've not watched the video. So please make it a point to write down your name in the comment box below this video, and it must reach me before 9 p.m. Today is 9th, so I should get it by 10 p.m. 9 p.m. on 10th June. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Have a nice day. Please go through the video again. If you have any doubts, please mail it to me on the address that is given to you via Prisms. Thank you. Have a nice day.